بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أرحب بالجميع وأتقدم لكم بالشكر الجزيل على مشاركتكم لنا اليوم في استعراض نتائج السنة المالية المنتهية في 31 ديسمبر 2025. الحضور معنا اليوم أنا وليد بن خميس الحشار الرئيس التنفيذي لبنك مسقط، كذلك معي أحمد البلوشي نائب الرئيس التنفيذي للأعمال المصرفية، وتي جانيش نائب الرئيس التنفيذي للمالية والأعمال المصرفية الاستثمارية. Good afternoon everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today to talk about the results of the 31st of December 2025 for the bank. And also, those who are present with you today are myself, Walid Al-Hashar, the Chief Executive Officer, and Ahmed Al-Blushi, Deputy CEO for Banking, and T. Ganesh, who is the Deputy CEO for Finance and Investment Banking. In terms of the first slide, it's the regular disclaimer that we all know about. طبعا في الشريحة الأولى فقط هو أن نشرح أن هذا العرض المرئي من قبل بنك مسقط هو بناء على معلومات متاحة للجمهور ومنشورة مسبقا، ولا يعتبر، هو فقط للنقاش وتبادل المعلومات، ولا يعتبر دعوة أو تشجيع للاستثمار في البنك أو اتخاذ أي قرارات استثمارية. So in terms of the structure of the presentation, I will first talk about the operating environment, then I will talk about the banking sector in general, and then move into Bank Muscat strategy and business lines, and then I will also talk about the key financial highlights for 2025. بالنسبة لاستعراض محتويات هذا العرض، في البداية بتكلم عن بيئة العمل عامة، بعدين بتطرق إلى القطاع المصرفي تحديدا وأدائه خلال نفس الفترة، ما هي استراتيجيات بنك مسقط وأنشطته الأساسية والأداء فيها، وبنتهي بأبرز النتائج المالية للسنة المنتهية في 31 ديسمبر 2025، وبعد ذلك إن شاء الله نأخذ أسئلة من الجمهور. In terms of the operating environment, of course, the year 2025 has concluded, and in fact, the macroeconomic environment in Oman remained constructive. It remained quite resilient, despite challenging global and regional environment during last year or even the years before that. In fact, over the past 4 years, the country has moved beyond its fiscal stabilization phases into a phase of institutionalized financial and structured discipline. Sovereign debt has reduced from the pandemic peaks. Fiscal management has become also quite strong and robust, and the overall policy predictability has strengthened. Real GDP growth also remained positive through the third quarter at 2.2%. And what is actually more important here in that the progress has not been only oil driven, but actually quite diversified. And we're seeing this diversification quite visibly in the non-hydrocarbon sector, specifically in logistics, manufacturing, renewable energy, and tourism. And they are contributing more actually strongly now to the economic growth. And this is the mandate under the Vision 2040, and all the initiatives and plans are translating into tangible activity and also good private sector participation. This positive trajectory was also reflected in the Oman sovereign rating, which was restored to investment grade by all the major international rating agencies. And this, in and of itself, obviously enhances investor confidence and reinforces the Sultanate's attractiveness as an investment destination. And now that we move into 2026, also the budget announced at the beginning of the year continues to reflect prudence. It's also anchored on conservative oil price assumptions and with disciplined spending and continuing with the debt management. The energy transition initiatives, especially in renewables and green hydrogen, are continuing to ensure that the export diversification is maintained and economic resilience is maintained. So overall, Oman entered 2026 with a stronger fiscal buffers and a broader growth base. And we understand, and of course we appreciate that while the macro backdrop is supportive, we will always have to remain mindful of the external variables, specifically the geopolitical developments in the region as of late, the oil price volatility and the global interest rate dynamics, inflation, and so on. All of these warrant from us close monitoring and prudent navigation, obviously. That being said, we believe that the 11th five-year development plan, 26 to 30, does provide good opportunities to strengthen this resilience that was built, which is sustained on non-hydrocarbon growth and accelerated diversification. في نهاية عام 2025 المتطلع للمشهد الاقتصادي إيجابي وجيد جدا، هذا على الرغم من التحديات التي كان يشهدها الاقتصاد العالمي والإقليمي ليس فقط في 2025 ولكن كذلك في السنوات السابقة لذلك. طبعا على مدى السنوات الأربع الماضية السلطنة شهدت مرحلة انتقالية ومهمة في مراحلها لتحقيق الاستقرار المالي، من تلك المرحلة إلى مرحلة الانضباط المؤسسي المستدام. انخفض الدين السيادي بشكل ملموس مقارنة بالمستويات التي بلغها خلال فترة الجائحة. الناتج المحلي الإجمالي كذلك سجل نمو إيجابي حتى نهاية الربع الثالث من العام إلى تقريبا 2.2%. الأهم من هذا كله أن هذا التطور، هذا النمو لم يكن نتيجة للنمو في قطاع النفط فقط. النمو أصبح في سلطنة عمان متنوع اقتصاديا، أكثر وضوحا في هيكلة النشاط الاقتصادي، مساهمة القطاعات غير الهيدروكربونية خاصة القطاع اللوجستي، قطاع التصنيع، الطاقة المتجددة والسياحة، كلها أصبحت أكثر فاعلية في دعم النمو الاقتصادي وفي إطار رؤية عمان 2040. والمبادرات والخطط الاقتصادية بدأت تترجم إلى نشاط، الحمد لله، نشاط اقتصادي ملموس ونمو ملحوظ كذلك في مشاركة القطاع الخاص. هذا طبعا انعكس، هذا المسار الإيجابي انعكس في استعادة التصنيف الائتماني السيادي لسلطنة عمان إلى الدرجة الاستثمارية من قبل كبرى وكالات التصنيف الائتماني الدولية، وهو يسهم طبعا في تعزيز ثقة المستثمرين، ترسيخ جاذبية السلطنة كجهة استثمارية واعدة. ومع بدء عام 2026 وإعلان الميزانية العامة للدولة، واضح أن نهجها هو تحقيق الاستقرار المالي، تستند إلى افتراضات متحفظة لأسعار النفط وضبط للإنفاق العام، واستمرار الجهود الرامية إلى إدارة الدين العام بكفاءة. وكذلك هناك المبادرات المرتبطة بالتحول في قطاع الطاقة، لا سيما في مجالي الطاقة المتجددة والهيدروجين الأخضر، كلها تضع سلطنة عمان في موقع متقدم داعم لتنويع الصادرات وتعزيز مرونة الاقتصاد على المدى الطويل. بشكل عام السلطنة بدأت عام 2026 وهي تتمتع باحتياطيات مالية قوية وقاعدة نمو اقتصادي أكثر تنوع. وطبعا رغم إيجابية البيئة الاقتصادية العامة في السلطنة، ندرك طبعا استمرار بعض المتغيرات الخارجية التي تستوجب منا جميعا المتابعة الحثيثة، وخاصة التطورات الجيوسياسية الأخيرة في المنطقة من تقلبات أسعار النفط وديناميكيات أسعار الفائدة العالمية، تتطلب منا أن طبعا نكون جدا متحوطين ومتابعين لما هي السياسات التحوطية التي تجعلنا مارين والى متخطينها الى بر الامان ان شاء الله. كذلك الخطه الخمسيه الحادية عشرة للتنميه 26 الى 30 نرى انها تمثل فرصه مهمه لتعزيز متانه الاقتصاد الوطني واستدامه نمو القطاعات غير الهيدروكربونيه، وكذلك تسريع وتيره التنويع الاقتصادي. In terms of the banking sector, the Omani banking sector does continue to expand and play a central role in supporting the real economy. The resilience of the sector obviously reflects strong regulatory oversight, as well as prudent risk management and disciplined capital frameworks. There has been external volatility that I have spoken about, and the sector had remained stable and well capitalized and liquid. In 2025, the growth momentum did strengthen alongside the broader economic recovery. Total sector credit increased to approximately 35 billion riyals, a growth of about 8.7% year on year. And this expansion was broad-based actually in different sectors, and very much aligned to the country's diversification strategy. Deposits have also demonstrated a healthy momentum, rising to about 34 billion with an annual growth of about 7%. And this does continue to support the balance sheets of banks, the stability, and of course the lending capacity. Islamic banking remains an important contributor to the sector. It's now accounting for around 22% of total banking assets, and strong growth in both financing and customer deposits during the year. This expansion has occurred alongside also a stable asset quality with robust capital adequacy ratios, and underscoring, of course, the disciplined approach that the banking sector handles growth. Looking ahead, the 2026 budget it has a focus on infrastructure, strategic investments, and private sector participation. It does provide a supportive platform for continued sectoral growth, combined with ongoing execution of plans for economic diversification. We do expect the banking sector to remain well positioned to support all of these different activities. القطاع المصرفي يواصل مسيرته ومساهمته الحيوية في دعم الاقتصاد الوطني. طبعا تعكس قوة هذا القطاع فاعلية الأطر الرقابية والتنظيمية في هذا المجال، كذلك الإدارة السليمة للمخاطر، إضافة إدارة رأس المال. على الرغم من أن هناك تقلبات خارجية وقد تحدثت عنها سابقا، القطاع المصرفي حافظ على استقراره مع مستويات قوية من الاستقرار الرأس المالي وكذلك السيولة. خلال عام 2025 تعزز النمو بالتوازي مع انتعاش الاقتصاد العماني عموما. ارتفع إجمالي الائتمان من القطاع المصرفي إلى نحو تقريبا 35 مليار ريال، وهذا النمو سجل تقريبا 8.7%. هذا التوسع جاء مدفوع بقاعدة واسعة من ناحية القطاعات المشمولة في هذا الاقتراض، ويتماشى مع أجندة التنويع الاقتصادي في سلطنة عمان. الودائع المصرفية كذلك أظهرت نمو جيد، ارتفعت إلى نحو 34 مليار ريال عماني، مسجلة نموا سنويا بقارب 7%. وهذا النمو يتواصل إن شاء الله ويواصل. طبعا مصادر التمويل النمو فيها يدعم استقرار الميزانيات العمومية للبنوك وتعزيز قدرتها على الإقراض. الصيرفة الإسلامية هي أحد المكونات المهمة في القطاع المصرفي، وأحد يعني المساهمات المهمة في القطاع المصرفي. تمثل حاليا نحو 22% من إجمالي أصول القطاع المصرفي، ونمو يعني مستمر فيها في كل من التمويل الإسلامي وودائع الزبائن خلال العام. كذلك هذا التوسع تحقق بالتوازي مع استقرار جودة الأصول وارتفاع مستويات كفاية رأس المال، وهذا يعكس طبعا النهج المنضبط الذي يتبعه القطاع في إدارة المخاطر والنمو. نظرة إلى المستقبل، ميزانية 26 تتضمن تركيز طبعا على تطوير البنية الأساسية في عمان، استثمارات استراتيجية مستمرة في تأكيد على مشاركة القطاع الخاص ومساهماته. توفر الخطة منصة داعمة لمواصلة نمو القطاع المصرفي، ومع استمرار طبعا تنفيذ هذه المبادرات والخطط الاقتصادية، كذلك تسارع جهود التنويع الاقتصادي. نتوقع أن يظل القطاع المصرفي في السلطنة دائما في موقع قوي لدعم نمو الاقتصاد ونمو اقتصاد مستدام خلال السنوات المقبلة. هذه الشرائح these slides now highlight the steady resilient performance over the last 5 years. So it gives us a 5-year picture and the trend over the 5 years. Despite the pandemic-related disruptions during the early part of this period, the sector did deliver consistent growth. Sector credit recorded compounded annual growth of about 5.8% over the last 5 years. Customer deposits also grew stronger, registering a 7% annual growth over the same period, which does underscore continued confidence in the banking system and the stable funding base. Profitability has also demonstrated a clear recovery, rebounding to pre-pandemic levels and higher. Now, looking ahead, we expect the sector to continue expanding at mid-single digit levels in both credit and deposits. And this is broadly aligned with the economic growth aspirations. Short-term volatility in global rates and geopolitical developments obviously may influence asset quality trends and provisioning and inflationary pressures globally, but the system does remain well capitalized and prudently managed. Overall, the banking sector growth trajectory remains stable, supported by a strong macroeconomic framework and the ongoing momentum. هذه الشريحة تستعرض الأداء المستقر للقطاع المصرفي والقوي خلال السنوات الخمس الماضية. طبعا على الرغم من الاضطرابات المرتبطة بجائحة كورونا في الفترة الأولى، استطاع القطاع تحقيق نمو. سجل إجمالي الائتمان المصرفي معدل نمو سنوي بمقدار 5.8% خلال الخمس سنوات. كذلك ودائع الزبائن نمو سنوي تقريبا 7% خلال نفس الفترة، وهذا يعكس طبعا استمرار ثقة الزبائن في النظام المصرفي وتوافر قاعدة تمويل مستقرة للنمو الائتمان. الربحية كذلك يعني مسار واضح في النمو. بالنظر إلى المستقبل، نتوقع أن يواصل القطاع نموه في كل من الائتمان والودائع. بشكل عام سيكون متماشي مع وتيرة نمو الاقتصاد. يعني هناك قد يكون تأثير من التقلبات الجيوسياسية على إذا ما كانت على المدى القصير ولم تستمر على المدى الطويل. ولكن عامة يعني إذا انتهت هذه التقلبات وانتهت هذه الظروف، نتوقع أن القطاع المصرفي سيظل متمتعا بمستويات قوية من الرسملة وإدارة سليمة للمخاطر. بشكل عام مسار نمو القطاع المصرفي مستقر، مدعوم بإطار اقتصادي متين، يعني مدعوم كذلك باستمرار الخطط الاقتصادية. In terms of Bank Muscat, as we have shared in the past, the bank is focused on key strategic pillars, which are customer centricity, market leadership, efficiency, productivity, and innovation. And these are very much focused. We continue to focus on leverage on the strong branch value, our financial position, and HR strength to deliver the best possible value to our stakeholders. تعتمد طبعا رؤية البنك على الركائز الاستراتيجية الأساسية وتعزيز خدمة الزبائن، الريادة في السوق، الكفاءة والإنتاجية والإبداع، ونواصل التركيز على الاستفادة من شبكة فروع قوية ومركز مالي قوي وكفاءة موارد بشرية لتقديم طبعا أفضل قيمة ممكنة لمساهمين وكل المعنيين بمصالح البنك. This slide provides an overview of the bank's diversified model and the contribution of our key operating segments. As you all know, Bank Muscat operates through a well-established set of business lines spanning corporate banking, personal banking, wholesale, Islamic, and international operations. Our corporate banking franchise remains a core pillar of the bank, contributing approximately 1/3 of our total assets and maintaining a similar share of overall profitability. This segment continues to leverage strong capabilities in project finance and large corporate relationships. Personal banking is also another major contributor. It accounts for close to 28% of the bank's asset base and generates over 30% of total profits. As the largest retail distribution networks in Oman and a strong customer franchise, this particular segment does continue to be a key driver of profitability for us. Wholesale banking contributes about 23 to 25% of both assets and profit, providing us a very good and resilient balance and diversified portfolio. Our Islamic banking segment also continues to have the highest market share and has shown a healthy growth since its inception. International operations segment is doing well and has actually contributed 10% to our net profit during the year. This shows that the bank does have a well-diversified loan portfolio, as you can see in the graph on the top right. The deposit portfolio is quite strong as well, driven by retail diversified deposits and supported by government and private sector deposits. هذه الشريحة تستعرض طبعا نظرة عامة عن الأعمال لبنك مسقط. مساهمة قطاعاتنا التشغيلية الرئيسية. البنك يعمل في عدة قطاعات متنوعة، منها الأعمال المصرفية الأساسية، الخدمات المصرفية للشركات، الخدمات المصرفية للأفراد، خدمات مصرفية متخصصة واستثمار، الصيرفة الإسلامية، وكذلك طبعا العمليات الدولية. كلها ساهمت وبشكل جيد في أرباح البنك واستقرارها ونموها. الخدمات المصرفية للشركات أحد أهم الركائز الأساسية للبنك، تسهم بحوالي ثلث إجمالي أصول البنك وتحافظ على حصة مماثلة تقريبا من إجمالي الربحية. الخدمات المصرفية للأفراد مساهم رئيسي آخر يمثل تقريبا 28% من قاعدة أصول البنك ويساهم في تقريبا 30% من إجمالي الأرباح، وهذا طبعا بفضل امتلاك البنك واحدة من أكبر شبكات التوزيع المصرفي للأفراد في سلطنة عمان وقاعدة زبائن قوية ونامية. الخدمات المصرفية الاستثمارية والمتخصصة تساهم بما يقارب 23% إلى 25% من كل من ناحية الأصول وكذلك الأرباح، هذا يوفر قدر جيد من التوازن والتنويع ضمن أعمال البنك. الصيرفة الإسلامية ميثاق تواصل الحفاظ على أعلى حصة سوقية، وكذلك الأصول المصرفية دائما في نمو، وميثاق يواكب هذا النمو في أرباحه وفي أصوله. قطاع العمليات الدولية الحمد لله كذلك تطور أصبح يساهم بنحو 10% من صافي أرباح البنك خلال العام. الشريحة في الجهة اليمنى توضح أن البنك يمتلك محفظة قروض متنوعة بشكل جيد كما هو موضح في الرسم البياني. كذلك الشريحة التي تحتها أو الرسم البياني الذي تحته يوضح أن البنك يتمتع بمحفظة ودائع جيدة يقودها نمو ودائع الأفراد مع دعم من ودائع المؤسسات والشركات الحكومية والشركات القطاع الخاص. محفظة ودائع متنوعة. We move to the financial highlights for the year. The slide summarizes the bank's financial performance for the year ending 2025. You can see that the bank's top line performance was strong. Overall, the bank delivered a strong performance, net profit increasing by about 13% to Riyal Omani 255 million, reflecting a healthy business growth and disciplined credit management. Revenue growth remains steady. It's supported by net interest and Islamic financing income growing by around 4%, and non-interest income also recorded a strong growth of over 20% during the year. Operating expenses increased by 6.7% relative to the growth in business. And the bank's loan portfolio expanded by close to 5% on a year-on-year basis. The deposit portfolio also witnessed a growth of 6.7%. In terms of asset quality, the provisions stand at about 174% of the non-performing loans, which reflects quite a healthy provision level maintained by the bank. Overall, the bank's agile approach in balance sheet management and strong funding dynamics and the growing contribution from diversified income streams have enabled us to deliver these strong results for 2025. هذه الشريحة تعرض الأداء المالي للبنك خلال الفترة المنتهية في ديسمبر عام 2025. طبعا تلاحظون أن الأداء الكلي للبنك كان قوي على الرغم من كل التحديات السابقة. ساهم النهج المرن الذي يتبعه البنك في إدارة الميزانية العمومية ديناميكيات التمويل على تحقيق نمو صحي في صافي إيرادات البنك. حققت أداء جيد في الفترة في 2025. ارتفع صافي الربح بنسبة 13% ليصل إلى 255 مليون ريال عماني، كل مدفوع بنمو إيجابي في الأعمال ونهج كذلك منضبط في إدارة الائتمان. الإيرادات حافظت على نمو بوتيرة مستقرة مدعومة بارتفاع صافي دخل الفوائد وإيرادات التمويل الإسلامي بنحو 4%. كذلك الإيرادات غير المبنية على الفوائد نمت نمو جيد تجاوز 20% خلال العام. صافي الربح سجل زيادة بنسبة 13% مقارنة بالعام الماضي. الإيرادات غير الممولة خلال العام تحسنت بنسبة 20.4%، حين ارتفعت طبعا المصروفات التشغيلية بنسبة 6.7% فقط، وهذا يتماشى مع نمو الأعمال والأنشطة الإدارية. محفظة القروض كذلك نمت بنسبة تقريبا 5%، ومحفظة الودائع سجلت نمو بتقريبا 6.7%. جودة الأصول ما زالت يعني جيدة، وبلغ إجمالي المخصصات ما يعادل نحو 170% من إجمالي القروض المتعثرة. بشكل عام طبعا النهج المرن في إدارة الميزانية العمومية قاعدة قوية للتمويل، تزايد مساهمة مصادر الدخل المتنوعة مكنت البنك من تحقيق هذه النتائج للسنة المالية المنتهية في 31 ديسمبر 25. This slide provides a quick snapshot of the operating performance over the last few years. As you can see, the bank has maintained a stable net interest margin of over the past 5 years. It's very much supported by active balance sheet management and disciplined funding strategies. The operating income has also continued to grow steadily, with non-funded income contribution to total income improving from 28 to 30%, while we still maintain a good cost discipline. The cost-to-income ratio at 38%. ROE of the bank has also witnessed significant improvement from the lower levels of 10% in 2021 to reach 13.6% in 25. Bank's ROA also continued on a positive trajectory, the highest, in fact, at 1.76% compared to the last 5 years. هذه الشريحة تعرض لمحة سريعة عن الأداء التشغيلي للبنك. حافظ البنك على استقرار صافي هامش الفائدة خلال السنوات الماضية، مدعوم بنهج نشط في إدارة الميزانية العمومية واستراتيجيات تمويل سليمة وإعادة تسعير المحافظ بشكل دوري، إضافة طبعا إلى تطبيق استراتيجيات تحوط مرنة. الدخل التشغيلي واصل نموه، ارتفعت مساهمة الإيرادات غير الممولة في إجمالي الدخل من 28 إلى تقريبا 30%، في الوقت الذي حافظ فيه البنك على انضباط في إدارة التكاليف. استقر معدل التكلفة إلى الدخل عند مستوى 38%. الإيرادات القائمة على الرسوم والعمولات ظلت مستقرة، تراوحت بين 27 إلى 30% من إجمالي الدخل خلال هذه الفترة. كذلك شهد العائد على حقوق الملكية تحسن ملحوظ، ارتفع من مستويات تقارب 10% في عام 21 ليصل إلى نحو 13.6% في 2025. في الوقت ذاته واصل العائد على الأصول تحقيق نمو إيجابي كما ترون في هذه الشريحة. This slide provides an overview of the bank's asset quality trends over the past few years. You can see that the bank has been able to maintain an NPL ratio of about 3 to 4%. The coverage ratio continues to grow along with that from 145% to 174%. And this reflects the bank's prudence policies in this area. As I have mentioned before, the bank's loan portfolio is quite well diversified and well managed. With prudent credit policy, the bank was able to grow the gross loan portfolio by 4.5% in 2025. And it's continuing its prudent credit policy to make sure that the performance does remain robust. هذه الشريحة تعرض نبذة حول جودة الأصول على مدى السنوات الماضية. واضح أن البنك تمكن من الحفاظ على نسبة قروض متعثرة منخفضة على بين تقريبا 3% إلى 4% خلال ال5 سنوات، ولكن كذلك لا يزال معدل التغطية في مستوى جيد يتراوح بين 145% إلى 174% في خلال الفترة نفسها. وذكرنا سابقا أن إجمالي محفظة قروض البنك تتميز بالتنوع ويتم إدارتها على نحو جيد من خلال سياسات ائتمان مدروسة. In this slide, we talk about the funding and liquidity of the bank. The bank is well balanced, has a funding mix of around 70 to 72 coming from customer deposits and the balance through interbank borrowings. And this has been stable, as you can see, over the past few years. High liquid assets over the last 5 years. These assets are in the form of high quality, very high quality liquid assets. As I mentioned earlier, the bank's capital position is one of the highest among Omani peers and one of the strongest amongst GCC peers as well. في هذه الشريحة نعرض وضع التمويل والسيولة لدى البنك. البنك يمتلك مزيج متوازن للتمويل. تقريبا 72% من هذا التمويل يأتي من ودائع الزبائن، والباقي يأتي من الوارد من عمليات الاقتراض بين البنوك وكذلك حقوق الملكية. وهذا الوضع ظل مستقر خلال السنوات الماضية. البنك كذلك يحتفظ بمستوى عالي من الأصول السائلة على مدى ال5 سنوات الماضية. وذكرنا سابقا أن المركز الرأسمالي للبنك من أعلى المراكز بين أقرانه في السلطنة وأقرانه في دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي أيضا. إلى هنا وصلت إلى نهاية العرض، وطبعا إذا كانت هناك أسئلة يرجى استخدام إشارة رفع اليد وسنعطي الحضور فرصة لطرح الأسئلة إن شاء الله. ومن خلال هذه الفترة أنتهز الفرصة لأجدد كذلك الشكر لكم على حضوركم معنا واستماعكم. That was the final slide, and now we move to the Q&A session. Please use the raise hand functionality and we will unmute you. Thank you very much for your participation with us. Yeah, who is YFM? Can you? They can hear me?
Yeah, في حد من Vision Capital. We can start with that.
Okay, if YFM, please just يعني state your name or Vision Capital, please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Thank you for the presentation and congratulations on a very good set of numbers. I just had a couple of questions, starting with your investment income, as you alluded to in your presentation as well, that there has been a good surge, a good increase in the investment income this year compared to last year, and a significant portion of it can be attributed to changes in fair value investments of financial assets. So, could you just briefly explain what these assets are and how stable is this number? Should we expect, similar incomes or similar changes? I expect not in the changes in fair value of financial assets going forward.
Okay, first, I think in general, our non-funded income and comes from a number of different sources in all the different business lines, whether it's in corporate banking, retail business, investment. Investment income is one part of it, but it's not the the entire set of يعني growth contributor to that piece. But obviously, your focus on the question. So in general, it is well diversified, and we expect it to be reasonably robust in terms of sustainability over the coming period because of its diversification. Now, when it comes to investment income in particular, I will ask Ganesh to just maybe add a point on that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for your question. In terms of fair value changes in the P&L, what you have seen, it's largely driven by our strategic investment portfolio, which we had set up in 2024. And this mandate is a long-term mandate to invest in top-tier GCC banks. And that portfolio is doing well. And it had a contribution in terms of dividend as well as gains from the book.
Okay, YFM.
Yusuf Faisal.
Okay, please go ahead, الأخ يوسف. Yusuf, we can't hear you if you are talking.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أنا بس كان عندي استفسار بخصوص بنك ميثاق. هل في فكرة بالمستقبل أن يصير فيها سبين اوف للمساهمين أو يصير فيها إدراج للنسبة اللي يملكها بنك مسقط؟ طبعا هو مملوك أغلبها بالكامل. فبس كنت ودي أعرف إذا هذا الموضوع موجود، يعني سبق أن تناقشوا فيه في المجلس، أو هل هذا موضوع مطروح أم لحد الآن ما حد صار عليه شيء، يعني ما صار عليه شيء؟ شكرا.
شكرا الأخ يوسف. بالنسبة للميثاق، هو حاليا نافذة إسلامية، و يعني كمصدر الأعمال بالنسبة لنا مصدر مهم واستراتيجية، والتركيز عليه جدا مهم بالنسبة لنا. فأي ما كانت هناك الخيارات التي تتيح لميثاق النمو، سواء كان كنافذة أو سواء كان كسبان اوف انتيتي، لا الإدارة ولا مجلس الإدارة سيتوانى عن يعني الشروع فيها في المستقبل. فالأمور مفتوحة ما زالت، وتعتمد على مدى فائدة أي توجه في هذا المجال في صالح المساهم وصالح عملاء البنك. يعني to cut it short, يعني we are open to any different strategic direction that will actually be of value to the shareholder. نأتي طبعا من ناحية ليس هناك يعني لا النوافذ الإسلامية غير مطلوب منها حاليا التحويل إلى يعني بنك مستقل أو spin off institution. لكن المهم في هذا كله هو طبعا جدوى التحول هذا مساهمين البنك، إذا كان له فائدة لهم، فهذا الشيء سوف يعني ينظر له في وقته، وطبعا ياخذ في عين الاعتبار الوقت الذي يحتاجه البنك للتحول إلى هذا. لكن ليس هناك يعني لا يعني رفض أو لا سمح الله في هذا المجال. Second,
text. Yeah, في الchat from اللواتي.
Are you in the process to increase your authorized capital? If then, yes. Yes, we are actually. It's in the EGM, Extraordinary General Meeting. It is a part of the agenda for that is to increase the authorized capital from 800 million to 1.2 billion. This is increasing the authorized capital, so we can have flexibility in terms of the capital structure of the bank. There are no immediate plans at the current pace, but as you have seen, we have almost reached our authorized capital just recently through our last capital restructuring. So this is more of a move to actually give the bank the agility and the flexibility for the future to consider if it sees fit in the interest of the shareholder any capital aspect that it needs to take into account or do. Let's take a verbal question. Abbas, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Sheikh. Thank you for the presentation. I have a few questions. I don't know. I can ask a few now, and maybe I'll come back in queue. The first question right off the bat is, what do you think the impact of this sort of regional crisis will be on specifically Bank Muscat's performance if this were to go on for another couple of months? What kind of impact are you foreseeing? And that's just the first question.
Okay, can I have all your questions better, please?
Okay, yes. And then, generally the way I look at your income statement, I'm going to sort of try and make sense of how do we look at Bank Muscat, not just for 26, but going forward as well. So questions around what sort of loan growth are you expecting over the next year to 3 years? As a follow through of that, when it comes to fee income to overall income, you're at 30%. So what's the sort of KPI that you set for yourself and your team? What's the sort of fee income to total income sort of percentage that you're looking at? Again, if I just go down, and focus on your spreads, last year was a bit of spread contraction. How do you expect spreads to behave going forward, given what we know of, global sort of interest rates? Cost to income ratio, you've got a good story there, 38%. Is there an aspirational number in your mind, knowing everything you know about the sort of cost structure that you work in the Omani context? Is expecting 35 in the next 3 to 5 years too aggressive? Cost of risk has been a fantastic story for the bank. Do you see any further moderation going forward, given that your provisioning coverage is close to 170, 175%? You feel that cost of risk moderation is going to continue, or it's going to come down further? So, I just wanted to make sense about the building blocks effectively of your long-term sort of ROE, and that's where my focus is, sir.
Okay, so that's it, Abba?
Yes, that's it for now.
Okay, fine. So in terms of the current situation and the impact, we have to take this situation in terms of the impact on overall Oman and the overall banking sector and the overall, because we are not removed obviously from what is surrounding us. Obviously, it's an area of concern first and foremost is the safety and the well-being in terms of country itself and the people of the country itself and the residents and so on. And that we hope and pray that it de-escalates and ends sooner rather than later. And that's the hope of everybody. Currently, the banking sector and the financial sector is well capitalized with ample liquidity. And in the short term, we see the situation is quite stable. The key concern here is obviously for the short term, the safety and security of the country. From a financial sector perspective, it's quite strong and quite robust. The question comes is if it continues and if it does prolong. And there are many theories and trajectories that can take shape on that. Obviously, the banking sector in Oman has been quite resilient in the past in the face of COVID, which was also quite a significant event. And the country has been quite strong and resilient. And what I believe is that if it does continue over 2 months, by that time we would have also had, as a sector, as a country, certain contingency measures in place to address any adversities that we expect that we have to navigate through. That's talking about worst case scenarios. Now, we need to also look at the other side of the coin. While it is a tragic and unfortunate and unwanted development in the region, Oman is proving to be a location of geopolitical diplomacy as well as geopolitical channel for economic diversification and economic support for the region. The ports in Oman are providing good opportunity also for the region to have an access for the sustainability of logistics and transportation to the region. And a number of different, the oil price is also shifting towards higher levels, which could also support the country's economic agenda. So there are also some positive aspects that leads us to believe that this situation could actually be navigated through quite well, both in terms of the positive aspects that are enabling Oman to support the GCC as well as the ability and its resilience in terms of its financial sector. And Bank Muscat is not different from any of that when you ask me about how does it specifically impact Bank Muscat. Bank Muscat will continue to navigate in the same way. It has prudent liquidity measures in place, prudent credit measures in place. In my view, if oil prices continue in the same trajectory they are, the risk of inflation globally might be heightened. But then again, we have to navigate through that the same way we have been navigating in the last 2 to 3 years. And so, it's not something new on the markets. And we hope that it's not going to last long. In terms of the income statement and your different questions on it, we've always said that we don't really give forward-looking statements, but I will give you some sort of what I feel, some insights into that. You've seen us; we're quite stable in terms of our growth trajectory. We have delivered sustainable growth percentages in the mid single digits, and we expect that to continue over the coming period, both in terms of loan growth, profitability growth, and income growth as well. Spreads, while we have seen contraction there, I think that's more in terms of a tactical move at the time, because we did go out and borrow for our upcoming EMTN maturity. So that did increase, 6 months before we needed it. And so that that did increase the cost of funds for us at the time. But also at the same time, competition is stronger in the country, and we recognize that. And we need to make sure that our market share is also protected. We don't see this as like I said, it was tactical rather than something that is going to be a feature for the future. But yeah, some margin contraction is always inevitable given the global interest rate scenario, and that will be within the norms that are expected in alignment with the global interest rate scenario. Cost to income ratio, it is one of the best. And I think a major factor of that is the top line, actually. But yeah, we have to recognize that we do have to continue to invest. And the digital aspect and the technology and innovation and AI will demand of us that we continue to invest in these areas to remain and continue to be not only relevant, but also competitive enough in this sector. So investment is going to continue. I think 38% is something that is quite a good percentage. I don't see it going below that, frankly. In fact, if it goes up to 40%, we are still happy with it, given the investments that we still continue have to make for the future. The cost of risk, yes. Barring any, God forbid, significant deterioration in asset quality coming out of this war, I think our expectations, at least coming into the year, into February, before this war, is that the economic fundamentals of Oman are quite good. And therefore, it is going to help actually what is already there in terms of the portfolio to actually support it come out of that, and also help us in the growth of a strong and a robust portfolio for the future. So that, yes, and barring again any significant deterioration due to this war and its prolongedness, our expectations are that it will. But if any, it will be moderated and it will continue in the same. We don't expect it to increase. Again, please, it just depends on how this whole thing is, and we don't know how it changes by the day. So we just continue to pray that it de-escalates. Next one.
Hiya Fulaj.
Hiya Al-Fulay, please.
Hi, يعطيكم العافية, congratulations on a good set of results. Just two questions from my end. From your perspective, how should we think about the MSCI inclusion story for Oman? Or is there a potential timeline on this?
Oh.
And
Sorry, yeah, go ahead. The MSCI inclusion?
yes.
Yes.
And then my other question is, we saw a slight decline in CASA in 2025. Could you just elaborate on the drivers? Or will you guys be growing CASA?
I'm sorry, your voice, we really cannot hear clearly what.
Is it better like this?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, my first question is just about the MSCI inclusion story for Oman.
Yeah, that's fine.
Potential
I
timeline.
have that one. Yeah.
And the second question was just about the slight decline in CASA in 2025. If you could just elaborate on the drivers and whether growing CASA is a priority in 2026. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Huh?
Deposit growth.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, Muscat Exchange is working quite hard in getting the market to be included in the MSCI as an emerging market. And we, as a large scrip in the market, as well as the other large players in the market, are very much working with MSX to achieve that. And of course, we expect some positive results from that. And when it comes to entry of new investors into the market, new fund managers, and so that's a positive. That's going to be a positive story for MSX and Bank Muscat and the other scribs in MSX. So we expect it to be positive, and as we have seen, يعني just the steps that were taken already and the sentiment of the possibility of it reaching to that level has actually contributed quite well in the growth of MSX index, and with it Bank Muscat share price and other. So that's quite a positive story, and I think there are some milestones that MSX is working on achieving with at least first the FTSE index, and then and we believe at least the FTSE maybe by first quarter next year I think is going to be something attainable for MSX. In terms of the growing, yes, it is a focus for us. CASA is a significant focus for us to grow. And that's why we continue to grow our franchise in terms of branches and our digital footprint. And we're going to work very hard to make sure that our market share there is protected. We have a number of strategies, not only in terms of branches, but also making sure that we grow our customer base. So that and a number of different initiatives in that area for retail banking. We have transformed our digital services to make sure that it caters to this growing customer segment. And so CASA is going to be a feature moving forward for us because it's a cheaper funding option for any bank. Anything else anybody wants to add? So thank you. Sundar, please.
Hi, Ramadan Mubarak, Sheikh Walid, and good afternoon. Just three questions from my end. The first is on the outlook for the Islamic banking, because if you look at the Islamic banking contribution on the asset side, it's 14%, but in a bottom line perspective, it's still lower. Do you see a kind of strategy separate on that? Because we also get the news that there are central bank is looking at separating the Islamic windows from being a dedicated bank. Did you have any kind of outlook on that? That's my first question. And the second question is on the competition. If you see last year, the Bank Muscat credit growth is lower than the market. The market has grown around 8 to 8.5%, but the credit offtake in Bank Muscat is lower than the market. And deposit is also marginally lower. But do you see this competition is getting impacted and the Bank Muscat is not able to deliver in line with the market? Any kind of views on that? And also I've seen like your government deposits as percentage of total has lowered from 32.7 to around 29% levels. This is also showing a bit more competition. And how do you see this being? Because Bank Muscat is always, we do see some kind of good competition push in other banks. How do you see that? And the last question was on maybe for Ganesh. This is because there has been a good movement of investments to the FVTPL in this year because it has almost like grown up around 178 million. Which means the mark-to-market impact could be there significantly if any significant market movements are there. For example, currently we are seeing some significant market events during this month. Are you sure of this? This is impact because we may see some 5 to 10% or more than kind of impact into the market, which is also could have been a significant impact to the bottom line of the bank. Can you elaborate on these three? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sundar. For Islamic banking, Mithaq, as we have talked about in the past, has been seeing certain areas where it needed additional focus on, especially when it came to the structure of the balance sheet, because as you know, cost of funding in Islamic banking is quite high. And most Islamic banks rely, and Windows rely on institutional deposits rather than retail deposits, which come cheaper. So that was structurally with most of the banks, but yet they have to also compete for the same credits and the financing at also lower rates. So it was very important for us, and if you have seen now, Mithaq has turned around quite well in 2025 compared to 23 and 24. And that's intentional because we focused on a number of aspects. One is to reduce the cost of funds in Mithaq and therefore focus on attracting more retail deposits for Mithaq and making sure that we activate fully our strong branch network for Mithaq, close to 30 branches. And we rely more on that, shed off some high cost deposits or reprice them. And then also make sure that we have a more sustainable model in terms of credit growth. So we work very hard in making sure that corporate financing is working in alignment with that, and so some of the growth happened there. Now, of course, it takes time for the margins to come back to the levels that they used to be. But we believe these are more sustainable for the future. So there were a number of tactical things that were done for Mithaq, and now it's coming out of that trajectory. In terms of whether it will go to a window or it will continue as a window or it will go to a full-fledged Islamic bank, this, like I said before, sorry, that answer was in Arabic. It all depends on what value this brings to the shareholder. And if it brings better customer experience for the customer and actually, again, better for the shareholder. So either if it is something that brings good value, we will always, as management and as board of directors, will be very keen to explore it and with an open mind to do it. But it has to bring value to the shareholder. That's on Mithaq. In terms of competition, first, I think what's important is when it comes to Bank Muscat, as a general rule of thumb, which I'm sure you know very well, much better than me, but I humbly just reiterate it, is that when you look at Bank Muscat, don't just consider the percentage, because you're looking at a base that is much bigger than the other banks. So what happens, sometimes it is tactfully done. When it comes to government deposits, it was tactically done to reduce those deposits because they were higher cost on us and therefore have actually caused some compression in the interest margin. So we believe in being agile to make sure that if managing our cost of funds. It wasn't out of competition that we lost those deposits. We still have the bandwidth to get them. Those deposits are highly price sensitive, and if you look at our loan to deposit ratios, if you look at our liquidity ratios, you will see them as quite strong and quite robust. So our need for deposit is not to the point where we compromise on our cost of funding. So those were tactical. And in terms of credit growth, that's also very prudent because we want to make sure that the assets that we continue to grow in the bank and the loans are also quite strong and quite robust, and the structures are helping us maintain an NPA level at the level that we are at today. So aside from the retail segment, which is highly competitive, and we are quite there, and there also we have different measures to address the competitive environment there when it comes to pricing. The corporate side, which is really the main thrust of lending, is more in terms of a Bank Muscat strategy to make sure that we continue our growth in a solid and with a risk cost that's acceptable to us and within our risk appetite. In terms of investment, specifically asking about, So
there, in terms of FEPL book, which you mentioned about 170 million, this is the strategic investment portfolio, which was announced in 2024. And that book has grown. The size which was announced was about 150 million riyal. We've pretty much fully invested it by end of last year. And that has, as we mentioned earlier, investment in top-tier GCC banks. So it has a dividend income long-term objective of gain as well. So the portfolio has an inbuilt mechanism for reserve creation to minimize any mark-to-market volatility. That's the way it is designed because it's a long-term book. It's not an active trading book. We have that very well in our mind in terms of volatility due to extraordinary market situations. The portfolio has an inbuilt reserve mechanism. So we won't see directly any market volatility being impacted on our books due to FEPL book.
Last question is Waruna.
Thank you.
Hello, hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi, thank you very much, gentlemen. I have two questions. The first one is on the loan book growth. There, I would like to understand how do you see the personal loan book or like the retail book growing? Because the growth in 25 was kind of muted. Do you expect this to change in the near term, like going forward? And my second question is on the margins. So as you said, you took some preemptive measures to cover the funding, so that's why the margins compressed. So how do you see compared to 2024, so 2025, the 2026 net interest margins, would it be like flattish or would it contract a bit? Just want to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. In terms of retail, there has been quite a significant competition, as I have said earlier. And there, I think we'll have to actually be cognizant of the fact that pricing is going to be a factor, and therefore margins may be impacted in that area. In terms of growth, we expect it to be better than last year, this year. But it's going to be faced with because it's a very good and robust segment of any portfolio, the retail segment. So there's going to be significant competition for it. But what happens is if overall the pie grows, then this segment will also grow for us, and we will continue to compete. But yes, we expect some compression in the margin as a result of that. But it only represents about 30% of our entire, 30 to 40% of our entire lending. But nevertheless, we expected margin compression due to the global interest rate scenario, and that's only natural. But what's important in all of this is that we believe that the non-funded income is going to be supporting us for the coming years, and that's why we're trying to diversify our sources, and hence our international portfolio is also going to be playing a role to augment some of the margin compressions that we see in Oman and the heavy competition that we have in Oman. So that is the answer to that. I think I answered it for you. He didn't have any other questions. Okay. Abbas, I will give you only one more question and then we will close this session.
Thank you.
Unless your hand risen was wrong.
No, it was not wrong. Yes, and thank you for that. My question is on capital adequacy. When I look at your CET1, it's 15%, and then with CBO allowing you to pay up to 60% sort of payout ratio, the money that you sort of retain, and given the loan book guidance that you've given close to an absolute term, that's 450 million Omani Riyal, it seems that that retention is enough for you to sustain this growth that you have in mind. And you also mentioned that given the size, it's not prudent to expect Bank Muscat to grow at the same clip as some of the other guys. So then my question, Sheikh, is that, why don't we look at other avenues to sort of return capital to shareholders? Either you guys were at the forefront of this when you did this one-off, perpetual from the retained earnings. But the way I look at it is as an analyst, as as someone who's tracked Bank Muscat from 2008, you have enough capital to grow and at the same time possibly do the same thing again. Just wanted to hear your views on that, and thank you for the opportunity to ask you all my questions.
Thank you, Abbas. Abbas, if you look at the capital adequacy of the regional banks, you will see that they are at our level or higher, and capital structures that are quite strong. And I think we need to be really comparing ourselves to that kind of a capital structure. We are the largest bank in the country. We are a decent bank, and we represent as Bank Muscat a barometer of the economics of Oman. It's very important that in times of adversity, God forbid, such as this, and any other times when we start navigating through different global economic scenarios or geopolitical scenarios, to have the standing and the bandwidth of a bank for Oman like Bank Muscat with those kind of metrics, carrying those kinds of metrics. And we have seen it help us immensely during the COVID times when we went out and started raising funding for the country, and also becoming a proxy for the country when it came to pricing, when it came to success in raising funds for Oman, not only through the bond route, but also bilateral and in syndication. I think it's also very important to note that the bank has been paying out quite healthy dividends and cash dividends in the past. So, and it's very important to note that there are good growth prospects that are coming up, but we need to make sure that the bank also continues to be able to source funds without having to go back to shareholders in the future. That is something that we want to make sure that we are able to create a sustainable model for growth, for stability, for sustainability of profits, and for sustainability of capital and risk in that regard. So that's really the view that I can give in that space. And we believe that the dividends that the bank does give are significantly higher than any of our peers, which is quite good. So I think that would be my answer. Right. So we come to our close to our session. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time, and I wish you all a good weekend, and also in advance, Eid Mubarak, and all the best of wishes for that. Thank you very much.